You can't understand Thurgood Marshall if you don't understand that it's not just that he's a black man, it's also that he's a lawyer, that the law shapes his perception on the world as much as the color of his skin does. Thurgood used to say, I don't need to put my hand in front of my face to know what color I am. He knew that he was black. He knew the situation he faced. He had grown up in a Jim Crow South. He had seen in travels right after law school the destruction of a community that segregation brought about. But at the same time, it was his training as a lawyer that gave him the lens by which he understood these events, by which he understood these situations, and that gave him a way to fight them. Thurgood believed in the law. He believed in the Constitution. He believed that the American legal, political, constitutional system was fundamentally sound, but that it had a cancer on it. And that cancer was racism, that cancer was segregation, and his job, like a surgeon, was to cut out the cancer, to remove the cancer and leave what was left to be healthy. And that's what drove him.
In these mass marches going through and down Elm Street, and some of them had, you know, eggs thrown at them and water dumped on their head from buildings, and it never got to the place where it was like, oh, isn't this nice? You know, it was never nice. It was just more than the city could handle in the final analysis. It was about unanimity and solidarity and, okay, we're all in this together. So basically it was life as apartheid. It was life that was separate and segregated and second-class citizenship.
If you look at the budget for the war on drugs every year, you know, it's billions of dollars. And so I was curious as to why that is and how does the war on drugs fit into the larger picture of American foreign policy. The war on drugs is something that the U.S. has used with, I don't say some justification, but it's effectively been able to use that as justification for intervention activities across the globe. We generally associate the declaration of the war on drugs with President Nixon in 1971, 1970, literally saying those words, declaring a war on drugs. And so in one way, if you look at that time period, we could see that the war on drugs is connected to the Nixon administration. But if you go a little further back in U.S. history, you realize that Nixon didn't start the war on drugs. The war on drugs had been in effect. I mean, U.S. has had strict drug policies domestically and abroad for most of the 20th century.
We're sitting in the first studio of Frank Lloyd Wright at Taliesin. His home that was first built in 1911, was destroyed in 1914, rebuilt in 1915, destroyed in 1925 and rebuilt. And this is the third version of Taliesin, and each version of Taliesin has a story to tell. One of the main themes in Wright's life and work was that he was always trying to get Americans to give up on Europe and create an architecture that was American, that was all American, and stop trying to imitate German castles and French chateaus and things like that, and build an American architecture that spoke about American character, that was true to the American character. And he really believed that the future of architecture was going to be in the Midwest and the West, because the East Coast was really hopeless, that they were so enamored with Europe, they would never give up on it. They'd continue to build European styles and historical styles instead of adventurous modern American styles.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. We've gone for main engine start. We have main engine start. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Go! Oh, honey, go.
We're at the Flight Simulator building at Purdue University, and this is where a lot of things started in aviation. The Purdue program of professional flight was the first in the country to offer bachelor's degrees to pilots in the mid-1960s. And today it continues to be one of the best, one of the finest flight programs in the country. Many of our astronauts learned how to fly here at the Purdue Airport. Many of our astronauts were in ROTC, and learned their flying experience here. Neil Armstrong, of course, came here. He was already a pilot. He learned to fly at 16 years old. But he flew into this airport. So if they didn't learn to fly here, they flew into this airport from their homes and from business trips they had. And our astronauts come back frequently. Neil Armstrong was very, very close to Purdue. Gene Cernan is very, very close to Purdue. They come here. They've been through these facilities. They talk to the students. They're pilots. Remember, before they were spacemen, they were pilots, and they love airplanes and they love to fly.